The Batman was probably the biggest hit when it comes to superhero movies in 2022. I know very few people that did not like this movie. Everybody loved this thing. Everybody loved the Batman, Matt Reeves' vision for Gotham, this version of Bruce Wayne Batman, Robert Pattinson's Batman. This movie was great. It was an amazing film, and obviously we know this film is going to spin off into a whole wide cinematic universe that is separate from the DCU slash DCEU, with what James Gunn is now going to be producing over there at DC Studios. This is going to be separate. There's going to be its own separate thing that is just going to be doing its own little thing over here, and it's going to be beautiful because, we got, obviously, kicking it all off with the Batman last year. We know we're getting some multiple spin-off projects like the Penguin. We got an Arkham series in the works for HBO Max. Supposedly villain movies like a Scarecrow movie, a Clayface movie, a Professor Pig movie. If you guys have no idea what I'm talking about right there and think that sounds absolutely crazy but actually kind of awesome, I made a video about it a couple months ago when that news came out. So check that out. But this, of course, also, the big one that people are most excited for is the Batman 2, because it all started with the Batman. Everybody loved it. Everybody wants to see more of the Batman, and we are getting that with the Batman Part 2, which is going to be coming in, I believe, October of 2025, which I think is a perfect release date for it. So just a few years away, we are getting the Batman Part 2, and not much is known about this. We know Matt Reeves is currently working on writing the script, so he's hard at work on that as we speak. But obviously one of the big things people are wondering about is the villain, one of the biggest ones being thrown around, not really necessarily in rumors, but more just fan ideas and fan theories and just things that fans want, is Mr. Freeze, which I think would be absolutely awesome to see. But we do not know for sure who's going to be the villain of this movie. But we do have a bit of an update now, which may confirm not who the main villain is of this movie, but at least some returning villains from the Batman movie, which I think is great. Just keep things connected here together in this universe, bring back these actors, bring back these characters, still keep them in the loop, even if they're not going to have maybe as big of a role as they did in the first movie. So there's a report coming at us from Daniel RPK. Of course, Daniel RPK, great source, very reliable. This is actually coming from his Patreon. So he just put out this little bit of news that two actors from the Batman have signed on to return and reprise their roles for the Batman Part 2. Now, one of those actors is Colin Ferrell as Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, which I'd say this is a pretty obvious one. He had kind of a small role in the Batman movie, but again, we know he's working on the spin-off series, The Penguin for HBO Max. They're filming that right now, so that's great to see. That's going to show his origin of him going from being kind of just a henchman under Carmine Falcone like he was for most of the Batman, and now rising up the ranks to become the Penguin and kind of the kingpin of crime in Gotham City. So that's going to be really cool to see. We're getting that origin story there, and then he's going to come back into the Batman and have an even larger role. That's going to be awesome to see. So this is the obvious one. This is the one I think we definitely fully expected and just makes a lot of sense. But the other one that Daniel RPK claims has signed on is Paul Dano as Edward Nashton, aka the Riddler. Now, he of course was the main villain of the first movie, and that movie ended with, thank God, unlike most superhero movies where they kill off the main villain of the movie, he actually survived, and he ends off that film in Arkham Asylum. So it looks like he is going to be returning in the Batman Part 2, which is something that I didn't necessarily expect, but it makes sense, especially given how that movie ended. So this, I doubt it, you never know what type of role he's going to be playing, but obviously he's not going to automatically break out and be the main villain in the second movie as well. He may break out during this film, but I don't think he's going to have a huge role. He may have a Penguin-sized role, or maybe even a Joker-sized role, which, it would make sense if maybe he is just in Arkham Asylum for this whole movie, and we just get a couple different scenes there where maybe Batman is visiting him, interrogating him, asking him for help. That would be quite interesting to see. But I just think it makes sense that Edward Nashton will still be in Arkham Asylum. But of course, this would, again, tying it back to the ending of the Batman, where did we leave off Edward Nashton in Arkham Asylum? Well, he just made a little friend there, a villainous friend with the Joker played by Barry Keoghan. So this is interesting. Now, Daniel RPK does not mention Barry Keoghan or Joker all in this post. He just says Colin Farrell as Penguin and Paul Dano as Riddler. They have signed on to return for the Batman Part 2. There's nothing said here about Barry Keoghan as Joker, but I mean, you kind of have to assume that if we're going to be getting most likely more Paul Dano, Riddler, Arkham scenes, that now that he has this new friend, we're probably going to get to see more of their interactions as well. And I think this would be great to see because the Joker, Matt Reeves has said, like, just because he was there in the first movie does not mean he's being set up to be the main villain in the second movie. I highly doubt he would be the main villain in the second movie. I don't want him to be the main villain of the second movie. I think he is going to be set up as the big bad at the end of this trilogy slash franchise. Like, he's going to be the Thanos of this Batverse, this Matt Reeves verse, which I think is the perfect way to do it, because that's Joker is such an integral part to Batman's story, but just wasting him on the second movie, build him up through these films, show how maniacal and insane and psychotic this character is, and then finally get that showdown, which we know actually would be a rematch, since in this universe, Batman is the one that originally put Joker in Arkham, so they've already fought against each other before. Maybe we could even get some flashbacks to that at some point, but they're definitely building that up to be the big showdown at the end of this trilogy slash franchise, depending on how many movies they end up going on to. But this, I think, is great news. The Batman 2, I'm so excited for this. Again, I love the first one, so I'm really happy to see that Colin Farrell and Paul Dano are both coming back. It just makes a lot of sense, and I'm just really excited to see what else in store for this film. So anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about this news, the return of Paul Dano and Colin Farrell for the Batman Part 2? So thanks for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything goes on in the DC life.